Welcome to the Top Secret Wedding Podcast. Our quick tip for today is to empower your team by giving them one task that they are solely responsible for.
If you want to learn how to be more accountable, more honest, and make more money in your business, listen to this podcast. This is the Top Secret Wedding Podcast, where we share top secret tips to help you take your wedding game to the next level.
I'm Annika, and I'm a wedding coordinator, enthusiast, and venue manager for one of the best venues in Idaho.
I'm Chris, and I'm a DJ, master of ceremonies, and all-around lover of weddings.
We're on a mission to improve weddings and wedding professionals everywhere.
So today we are talking all about our favorite quotes, and we've got three that we're going to go over today. One is Annika's, one is mine, and one is kind of both of ours. So, these are just quotes that have been really important to us and have kind of guided the way that we work in our business. So let's jump into the first one.
Yeah, so the first one, if anyone who knows me, they know I say this all the time. It's always on repeat in my day-to-day life.
Yeah.
But what it is if more than one person is accountable, then no one is accountable.
I like it.
So, yep.
I like it.
It's so true. If you have more than one person who's in charge of something, it's so easy for them to then sit there and be like, oh, well, I'm sure Chris has it, or I'm sure. So if more than one person is accountable, then nobody's accountable. Yeah. What that does as well is if you have more than one person accountable, it creates a lack of clear responsibility, and that just leads to problems, and it kind of all just snowballs, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, because if one person is in charge of it, then they're like the buck stops with them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but if not, then who's the one that's doing the final check?
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing too, is like you have to have someone who takes full responsibility, and so they know, hey, if I don't do it, it's not going to be done.
Right.
There's so many times in my team meetings, we'll be like, okay, like we need someone to take responsibility for this action. And it's so easy to get into like, oh, well, Chris and I both kind of work on that. We can both take it.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, no, whose name is on it? You can work with someone, but whose name is on it? Who's ultimately responsible?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important. And I mean, that could lead to problems. Like if you have something that needs to be done, that could lead to something either A, not being done, or being done in kind of a shoddy way.
Yeah, totally. Well, and if you have to think too, if someone has a question about it and there's more than one person they can go to, all that does is create confusion and like, oh, well, who do I go to? And blah. Right. But if it's one person, like, hey, you have a question about this, Chris is in charge of that, you go to Chris.
Right. And I mean, after the fact, it would also be easier to say, well, they said this, right? And if that's not accurate, right, then that could be a problem.
Oh, yeah, totally. One kind of little side quote under that quote is unmet expectations lead to frustration.
Oh.
I'm going to say that again.
Yeah, say it again.
Unmet expectations lead to frustration.
This is in every aspect of life.
Yes. So there's this guy I work with, and he says this all the time, and it's so true and so accurate. Yeah. If you have an expectation, but it's unclear, it's whatever, it's not being met, all that's going to do is lead to frustration on all parts. Right.
And so I think by extension of that, it's important to set clear expectations.
Exactly.
So for example, if I'm going to take my wife out on a date, and it's going to be a casual, just weekly date, and she's expecting it, and I forgot about our anniversary, and she's expecting it to be for our anniversary.
Right.
It could be a good normal date, but it would be horrible in her mind because...
Exactly. Yeah. So you have to have those expectations clear and understood on both parties.
Yeah.
And if not, then it's just going to be unmet and lead to frustration.
And I think with our clients, that's on us to set those expectations.
Yes. I think that's the thing is your client is looking to you as the professional. And so they're looking to you to set those expectations because they don't know what to expect. They don't know what needs to be set, And
I think also, people will, sometimes they have expectations that are unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I shouldn't say that one, But I remember you telling me about a client that wanted something very specific that was like against the laws of physics at the
Yes.
right?
Yes.
You probably know what I'm referring to.
Yes.
So like it just could not be done at the venue in a safe way or on Earth. And it's important for us to say that's not something that we can do. However, maybe we can do this.
Yes,
instead.
exactly. Well, I think that's the thing. There's another instance that came to my mind where, again, it's very simple, but again, I'm all about a paper trail. You can think you set something up, but if you just told them over the phone, like, oh yeah, well, this will be the expectation, and there's nothing to refer to, like, you have to have a paper trail. But there was a miscommunication about the expectation of setup,
Okay.
Bridal party wanted it done so that when they arrived at 8 a.m., everything was done. How we work is our staff starts at 8 a.m. and they'll be done within an hour. Okay. So again, a very clear, like, hey, I might have said it, I might have forgot, who knows? But that expectation was not clear and it was not met on the client's behalf. So it led to frustration.
Right.
And likewise, it led to frustration on my part because I was like, well, I thought this was clear. And yeah, so again, just unmet expectations lead to frustration.
When in the end, in that instance, it was going to be fine.
Exactly. It was going to be fine. Yeah.
I did a wedding last year and the normal wedding venue coordinator was not there. She's fantastic and her team is really, really good.
Yeah.
They had somebody else that was there in place of them that didn't normally work at that venue. And the family, I think they had somebody that did some wedding planning and stuff. And things were not getting done on the time schedule that the family wanted. I knew, and the venue people knew, because they were doing decor and all that. They knew that it was going to be fine because their team comes in at a certain time to get it done in time with plenty of time beforehand, but it wasn't on the time schedule that the family wanted. So, because there were so many people that thought they were the leader, that thought that they were accountable for that situation, it didn't. They had a poor outcome. Because the family thought they were in charge, and the venue thought they were in charge, and the planner thought. So if it was clearly stated beforehand, this is who's in charge of this, it would have been better. So
yeah, I mean that kind of ties into both the expectations and if more than one's accountable,
right?
Nobody
exactly.
is. Yeah. So
I think the other thing is it can lead to a lack of motivation as well, because if I'm in charge of it and I do it, I'm like excited about it,
Yeah.
And I'm excited to make it happen. But if there are two people that are given the same job.
Well, and it's so easy to be like, oh, well, I'm so excited about this, but I'm working on this task with Chris and I don't want to overstep Chris. What does he want to do? And it's just, it's so, it gets so muddy.
In the recording industry, I don't know if they still do it, but for a long time, it was a common practice to give two recording engineers the same project and have them both edit it and get a final product and then present it at the end.
Yeah.
And normally they weren't told about it. They weren't told like, you're both going to be working on the same project.
Oh, yeah.
But every once in a while they would find out and they were like, why am I even doing this? Why am I working? I mean, the goal in the end was to get the best final product, and maybe it was engineer A or engineer B. But if they both found out, then they're both going to be like, well, the other guy's going to do a better job. Why should I try? Or
exactly.
I guess it could lead to competition too. So that could be, I don't know. So yeah. Well, that's a good quote. I like that quote. It's good. If more than one person is accountable, then no one is accountable.
Yep.
That's good. My quote, when I think I was in 8th grade, and we were in, I think it was like a government class. And we had this magician come in to the government class. And I had in my head, I envisioned like a guy coming in a clown suit.
Yeah.
And this guy came in and he was this big, tall, black dude, super cool, right?
Yeah.
He was dressed so professionally. And he was exactly opposite what I was envisioning this guy would be.
Yes.
He was so professional, and he had a couple of quotes. And the first quote is, "Never be dishonest in business, and don't do business with anyone who is dishonest."
I love that.
It always stuck with me because
Yeah.
I've seen that, I've done business with people who are less than honest, and I didn't know until after the fact. And it's not a good thing.
No, it's not. It's really stinky.
Yeah.
Honestly.
If that happens, for example, if I were to do business with somebody that's not not honest, and people know that, they're going to associate me with their morals.
Yes.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
And also, it's just so much harder to deliver on dishonesty.
Yes.
Just if you're honest about what you're able to do, you're able to deliver on that. And I think it's easier to do.
Yeah.
It's much easier to do because if you're honest about what you're able to do, then you're going to be able to do it.
Right. Well, and if you're honest about it, that's instantly going to implement a level of trust that dishonesty doesn't get you.
That's so true.
So.
That is very true. Yeah. So, pretty simple.
Yeah.
Don't be dishonest. Don't do business. The other quote that he said is always wear a suit to a business meeting.
Always wear a suit.
Always wear a suit. And I was like, he's like, always.
Always.
Okay. And how is that ever going to treat you? How is that ever going to put you in a bad position?
It's so true. Yeah.
Dress professionally.
Yeah.
People are going to view you professionally.
Yeah. Well, and I think, if you dress professionally, no matter what type of meeting,
Yeah.
business meetings, but, it gives you that level of respect, and everybody looks at you and they're like, oh, they're here for business. Like,
he's wearing a tie. She's wearing a skirt. Like,
yeah.
They mean business. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's my quote, which I honestly never say. It's funny. You're like, people who know me say this all the time. I say this all the time. I never ever say this. I just
literally,
do it.
I can't even remember whose quote this actually is. But I always say, if more than one person's accountable, nobody is. And then Britton always says unmet expectations. Yeah. And everyone's like, Britton's quote, Annika's quote.
I love it. They're good quotes. Yeah.
So,
the third one, I think, is probably something that most people in our business have heard.
Yeah.
Clients who pay less always expect more.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
I was trying to think about this, about why this is true, why this actually happens. And I think there's a few reasons for it. I think, one, people who pay less are typically, and this is true of me too, they're typically looking for deals.
Yeah.
So they're looking to get more for less from the start, right?
Yes.
They're looking to spend less money but still get the same product. And so I think that leads to kind of the second reason is that they don't understand the value of something. And so they have no problem asking for more value because they don't understand the value of the original thing.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Totally.
So they could ask for a DJ, but then they want me to set up their tent as well because they don't understand the value of what I bring.
Yeah.
So, and also, if you're not valuing yourself by setting the proper price, then why should you expect your clients to value you?
Yeah. No, it's so true. It's so true.
Yeah. I think also if you put your price so low, you don't want to inflate your price, but if you put it below what you're actually valued at, then clients are not going to value you. They're not going to value the relationship. Just like I always tell clients when they call me, and they ask me like, what should I be asking DJs? Like sometimes they ask me that, and I say, well, first of all, you should check with multiple DJs, make sure you find somebody that's a good fit for you. But here's the pricing range. If they're charging, $300 for a wedding, you might want to look elsewhere because it's like going to a steakhouse and them having a $1 cheeseburger. Like, there's something wrong with it.
Yeah.
You're not going to respect that cheeseburger. So, make sure that you are valuing yourself at a level that clients can value as well.
Yeah, well, and I think with that too, it's so easy when clients see a higher price tag that they're like, oh, so why do they charge more? What do I get from that? Like it adds that respect value. Whereas if you just go to the bottom dollar, they're like, oh, great, that's a great deal, just like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes when you put your price really high, people are like, there's almost like a mystery quality that's put in there.
Yeah.
He must be really good. I don't know why, but
I don't know why, but yeah.
I'm not saying that you should just do that. You should have actual value to your pricing, but yeah, I think that's true. And I think on the flip side, clients who pay more, they understand the value of what they're getting.
Agreed.
And they expect a high level of service.
Yes.
But I've found that you can charge what you're worth and still over deliver. You can still over deliver. They can have high expectations, but your expectations should be higher than theirs. So
yes.
Yep.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So those are our favorite quotes that we live by. Yeah. Well, let's repeat them one more time. I'll let you read yours.
My quote.
Yeah.
If more than one person is accountable, then nobody's accountable.
Never be dishonest in business, and don't do business with anyone who is dishonest.
And clients who pay less always expect more.
That's it. If you have a favorite quote, let us know what it is, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Top Secret Wedding Podcast.
Subscribe, rate, and review us, and we'll see you next time.